Hello boys and girls and everyone else. Welcome again to another science video lesson episode. Now in this episode, we will going to talk about what makes up our nervous system. So you heard it right. We were going to talk about the things that makes up our nervous system. These are the neurons, the glial cells, and everything else related to this topic. So, as we discuss this one today, we will discover what are the function of these things that makes up our nervous system. So, we will not waste time anymore. Let's get started. Alright, so here we are in our lesson for this episode. So, still we are in the nervous system. Okay, so but before you dive in deeply with this lesson that we will going to have in this episode, you need to watch first my previous video lesson. It is on the link above. So that is the components of those are the components of the nervous system. Now if you want to know more about the parts and function of these components, just click the link above this video. It will appear right there. Okay, so we'll proceed now. So nervous system, and we are answering the question here, what makes up the nervous system? What are the things that makes up our nervous system? So aside from having brain, spinal cord, and bunch of nerves found in your nervous system, so what are the things that makes up these organs that we have? So if you remember your discussion when you were in a lower level, like grade 7, you encountered a topic there called the organization of life. Okay? So in the organization of life, you are, you know that before we became an organism, we are arranged accordingly into hierarchy. So starting from the atoms down to molecules, and from molecules, it will become polymers, something like that, and those polymers will become cells, tissues, organ system, and the organism. Okay, so if you're going to trace down, all right, if you will going to trace down those the organization of life, nervous system falls under the organ system. Okay, why it falls under the organ system? So it because the organs that are found in this organ system are functioning the same thing as the other organ that are found in this nervous system. Okay, so if we will going to ask ourselves what makes up the nervous system, so basically we will go back again to its basic block. All right, so we will go back again to its basic block, which is the cells. Okay, so what are the cells that makes up your nervous system? Okay, what are the cells that makes up the nervous system? So if we go back, we have the nervous tissue, and if we try to go back once more, so we have the neurons. All right, so we have the neurons. So the neurons are the basic block or the basic working group of your nervous system. Okay, so there are millions of neurons. There are a lot of neurons found in our body. So billions of them. Okay, most of them are concentrated in the brain, and some of them are found in our lower body extremities. Okay, so there are neurons that are found in your sense organ, and then so on and then so forth. So imagine those amount of neurons that we have on our body. Okay, so there are billions of them. Okay, so again, what makes up our nervous system? These are neurons, the basic building blocks of the nervous system. Okay, now once these neurons group together, all right, and perform a certain function, they become now a nervous tissue. Okay, and the nervous tissue will become now an organ. It's either a brain, spinal cord, or a nerve, and this groups together to become an organ system. All right, so what are the three types of neuron? Right, so what are the three types of neuron? So there are three types of neuron based on its number of extensions, number one, and the second one is based on its function. All right, so we will going to discuss first the types of neuron based on the number of extensions that it has. Okay, so there are three types. So we have the bipolar, the unipolar, and the multipolar neurons. All right, so if we will going to find out, so what are these different types? So let's start first with the bipolar ones. All right. So when we talk about bipolar ones, this talks about the neuron that has two extensions. All right. So two extensions. So one here from the top of the cell body that you have right here, one over here, and the second one is over here. So this is the extension. There are two extensions of the axons. All right. So one here and one there. Okay, so that is why it is called bipolar. Now, most of the sensory neurons, right, which will be discussed later, with most of the sensory neurons are bipolar neurons. Right? So the next one is the unipolar neurons. The unipolar neurons doesn't have any extensions at all. It has one. Okay, it has one axon, all right? And the cell body is located at the side of the axon. Okay? So as you can see here, it has only one axon, and the dendrites over here is over there. Okay? So one axon only. And the next one is the multipolar neuron. So the multipolar neuron are neurons. Example here is the motor neuron. Okay, most of the motor neurons are multipolar ones. Okay, by the way, the unipolar, where can we find these unipolar neurons? You can find most of this in invertebrates, like insect, mollusk, okay, something like that. All right, so unipolar neurons are found in this group of organisms. All right, so how about the multipolar one? So multipolar example here is the motor neuron. Okay, so as you can see, it has a single axon. All right, even though it has a single axon, it has a multiple dendrites. All right, so it has multiple dendrites over here. So that's what makes it a multipolar neuron or multi-connection, multi-extension neuron. All right. So having one single axon doesn't mean it is not a multipolar neuron. So we have right there the extensions are being projected on the dendrites on top of it. All right, near the cell body. So that is the multipolar neuron. Again, example of multipolar neurons are the effectors. All right, so the neuron, all right, that is triggering the effectors. Okay, so these are the three types of neuron based on the number of extensions that it has. Okay, so the next group of neurons are the neurons based on the kind or on its function. All right, the kind of neuron based on its function. Okay, let's start first with the sensory neuron. All right, so the sensory neurons are neurons that are designed to transmit nerve impulses from sense organ. So from its name, all right, from the name itself, the neurons are attached. These neurons are said to be located to where the sense organs are located, like skin, ears, so on and then so forth. Okay, so they are used to transmit nerve impulses from sense organ. Okay, all right. So next is the motor neuron. Motor neurons are designed to trigger the movement of the effectors. Example of effectors that we have is skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. All right. So those are examples of muscles in which these neurons are attached. Okay. They trigger movement. Okay. They trigger the reaction. Okay. These neurons. And the instructions that will trigger the movement comes from the central nervous system, which is attached on these dendrites right here. All right, so which are attached to the dendrites that we have over here. Okay, so these motor neurons will not function without any direct instructions from the neurons from the central nervous system, which is the relay neurons. All right, so the relay neurons are designed to process, all right, and control the activities of the two other neurons. Okay, so they decide to process what is coming on the sensory neuron, and it controls the activity of the motor neurons. Okay, so these are the relay neurons, and most of them are found in the central nervous system. Okay, so the cell body of this neuron is attached to the sensory neuron. All right, so the dendrites over here. Right, so the dendrites over here are attached to the sensory, and the dendrites on the axon is attached through the motor neurons. It is attached to the motor neuron. So also known as the interneurons, the relay neurons that we have right here. Alright, so again, these are the three kinds of neuron based on its function. Okay, so take note that the neurons that you have right here, okay, so the neurons that you have seen right here, just like a typical cell. So if you remember if you remember your previous lesson about the parts of the cell, a neuron is a cell, but it is a weird looking cell. Okay, but still it has nucleus, cytoplasm, and a cell body that makes it similar to a typical cell. But there's one thing, all right, that makes it different to a typical cell. We have here a nerve fiber. The nerve fiber is the extension of the cell body of your neuron. So if this is the cell body, its extension, the one that you have right here, the extension that you have right here is said to be the nerve fibers. Okay? So this extension is made up of cytoplasm. Okay? The extension of the cell body also extended the cytoplasm in this nerve fibers. So that makes your neuron weird looking cell. Okay? So that is the nerve fibers and the typical parts of your neurons, just like the cell. All right. So the question here is, what are the structure of a neuron? So what are the typical structures of your neuron? So by the way, there are a lot of neurons in our body. So the longest neuron that is part of our body is found on the leg. Alright, so it is found on the leg. So the neuron there is attached through the end part. Okay, it is attached on the end part of the spinal cord, and the end part of that neuron is located on the tip of your toes. Okay, so it is more or less around 1 meter, something like that. Okay, so that is the longest neuron in your body. So to answer this question, what are the structure of a neuron? So we will discuss here the parts and function of the typical neuron. So we will going to use here, to make it straightforward, we will going to use here the motor neuron. Okay, we will going to use this motor neuron. Okay, so to start with, let's have first the dendrons. So the dendrons are nerve fibers that transmit towards the nerve impulses to the cell body, towards the cell body. So as you can see here, I highlighted the keyword here so that you will not be confused. Okay, so towards the cell body, that is the dendrons. All right, so the branch of the dendrons are called dendrites. All right, so these dendrites receives the nerve impulses from other neurons. Okay, so they are designed to receive these nerve impulses. So if you're going to take a look at it on this diagram, so these are the dendrons, this one, okay, the blue arrow. So these are the dendrons, and the branch extension of that dendrons are the dendrites. So these are the dendrites over here, right? So they are designed to receive, the dendrites are designed to receive the impulses coming from the other neuron, just like what you have right here. Okay, so if we were going to zoom this one out, so as you can see, this is the other neuron, which is attached to the dendrons and dendrites of the next neuron. Okay. Next one is the cell body. All right, so the cell body is where the nucleus and cytoplasm and other organelles are located. Okay, so the cell body of a motor neuron is irregular. All right, so the cell body of the motor neuron is irregular in shape, while the one in the sensory neuron is somehow circular in shape. Okay, so meaning to say that there is a variation in the shape of this cell body. So based on what kind of neuron are you talking about? Okay, so that is the cell body. So irregular shape. So in a sensory neuron, it is circular. All right, so it contains the nucleus here. Okay. So next one, we have the axon. So what is an axon? An axon is a part of the nerve fibers. Alright, part of the nerve fibers that transmit the nerve impulses away. Alright, if the dendrons are towards the cell body, this one is away from the cell body. And usually axons are the one that contributes to the length of the neuron. They're the ones that contributes to the length of the neuron. So these are the axons. And take note, they move the impulse or they transmit the impulse away from the cell body. Okay, so these are the axons, not the green one. Alright, so the green one are other structures. So these are the axons. And if you know, if we were going to extend this, it will end up right here. Alright, on these branches that you have here. Alright, connecting to the other neuron or even an effector. Okay, so this is the axon. Alright, next we have the myelin sheath. Alright, so the myelin sheath are fatty substances that enclose the axon. Alright, enclosing the nerve fibers. Okay, so the axon to be very particular. And the function of the myelin sheath is for insulation. Okay, so why do we need to insulate this one? It's because we do not allow the nerve impulse to jump from the other neuron anytime. Okay, so we will be able to okay, the nerve impulse travels through your neuron in a unidirectional manner. So if you don't have any insulation on your myelin sheath, it will jump off, all right, and form other it will jump off to other direction. Okay, away from your neuron. Okay, so similar thing with your electrical wire. If you are familiar with an electrical wire, so the copper inside your electrical wire is the one that conducts electricity. Right? So it conducts the one that the electricity, and in order for you not to be electrocuted by the electrical wire, you need to make the wire insulated by putting a rubber, a plastic, or a vinyl on that particular wire. Okay, so that the copper inside that wire will not be exposed and will cause electrocution. Same thing with the myelin sheath that we have right here. So that is for insulation. Where is it located? So the green structures that you have over here, these are the myelin sheath. Okay, so it promotes the unidirectional nerve impulse transmission. So if it is coming from the cell body, so it will stay that way because of the myelin sheath. Okay. Okay, next is the neurolemma. Neurolemma are membrane that surrounds the myelin sheath. Now, for what purpose? The purpose of this is to make the myelin sheath stays in place and not to be degraded over time. Okay, so it makes the myelin sheath stays on its place. Okay, so that your myelin sheath will be able to do its usual function. Okay, so these are the neurolemma. So this is the thin membrane around your myelin sheath. So like the one that you have over here. Okay, so next, the sixth part that we have right here is the nodes of Ranvier. Okay, so what are nodes of Ranvier? These are regions of the axons where myelin sheaths are absent. Okay, so the myelin sheaths here are absent, so they allow nerve impulse to jump from one node to the other. Now, what's the purpose of jumping the nerve impulse from node to node? The purpose of that is for faster nerve impulse transmission. Okay? Once you have your nodes of Ranvier, you'll be able to achieve faster transmission of nerve impulses. Okay? Along the nerve fibers. Okay? So, there's an advantage of having this node of Ranvier. So, it is located here. So, these nodes that you see here, this one over here, and this one. So, the impulses will jump from one node to the other, promoting faster nerve impulse transmission. Alright, so the seventh structure that we have right here is the dendrites of the axon. So from the location of location itself, so it is located at the end part of the axon. Okay, and they transmit the impulses to the effector or another neuron, if there is. Okay, so that's the purpose of the dendrites of the axon. Same thing as the dendrites found in the cell body, but they transmit instead of transmitting. Instead of receiving, they transmit. All right. So that's the dendrites of the axon. Okay. So we have the dendrites over here. Okay. All right. So the dendrites are very crucial. Okay, because certain processes in the nervous system called the sodium potassium pump. And this process is very essential in transmitting the nerve impulse from the cell body to the axon down to the dendrites of the axon that we have right here. Okay, so at the end of the dendrites of the axon, we called it the postsynaptic terminal. Okay, we called it the postsynaptic terminal. And in the motor neuron, you called sometimes it is called it motor end plate. Now, in other neurons, they are mostly called postsynaptic terminal. They are mostly called postsynaptic terminal. So these are the differences. Okay, so these are the junction between the dendrite and the muscle fiber, or the dendrite between another neuron. Okay, so the dendrites, the postsynaptic terminal is somewhere right here, and this is the enlarged view of this part that we have over here. Okay, so the space between these two neurons that we have right here, the space that we have right here is called the synapse. Right, so let me rewrite it once again. So we have synapse. Okay, so that is the space between the two neuron. Okay, so they are not connected. Okay, they are not connected to each other, but they have space in between. Okay, so this is the postsynaptic terminal. In other case, this is also known as the motor end plate. Okay. Okay, so this is now the neuron, and together with its other companion, which is the glial cells, okay, you now form a nervous tissue. Okay, so the picture that you see here is a nervous tissue. Okay, so the neuron, which has the cell body and the nucleus over here, and the nucleus that you see here are the nucleus coming from the glial cells. Okay, these are the nucleus. So you will not notice here the myelin sheath on the axon. So it's hard to notice here the myelin sheath. So technically, this is the nervous tissue or nerve tissue. Okay. All right. So we are done with the nerve cells. We are done with the nerve cells. So the next one that comprises the nervous system is the glial cells. All right. So it's the glial cells. Now, these glial cells are designed to support and insulate the neurons in between. Okay? So they are designed to do that one. Okay? So depending on what region in the nervous system, there are different kinds of glial cells. Okay? And since it has different kinds of glial cells, it has also different function. But they revolve around support and insulation. Functions. All right. So let's start first with the central nervous system. So the central nervous system is made up of several glial cells. There are 4 of them. Okay, there are 4. So we have the astrocytes. Okay. So we have the microglial, then we have the ependymal, and we have the oligodendrocytes. All right. So what is the difference between the 4 of them? All right. So the astrocytes are the one that is designed to regulate ions. Now, what are the ions found in the nervous system? Calcium, sodium, potassium, chlorine. All right. So those are the typical ions that is needed in order to maintain the nervous system's function. Okay. Now, without these ions, nervous system will not function properly. Right. So next one, there's something that defends any foreign objects like viruses and bacteria in the central nervous system. So that is the glial cells. So it is important that the brain and spinal cord are protected from viruses so that it will not be damaged. All right, it will not be damaged and maintain its normal function. All right, next one, the ependymal cells. All right, so the ependymal cells are cells that are lining up your tissues. Okay, these are designed for protection. Okay? It protects the delicate tissues that are found in the brain and also with the spinal cord. And this tissue secretes fluid. Okay, they secrete fluids that that is used as an additional protection for the brain and spinal cord. All right, so ependymal cells. And lastly, we have the oligodendrocytes. So the oligodendrocytes used to insulate these neurons in a form of myelin sheath so that it will promote a faster nerve impulse transmission. Okay? Alright, so that is for the central nervous system. So the next one is the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system comprised of two glial cells. Number one is the satellite cells, and the second one is the Schwann cells. Now, the satellite cells are designed to protect, alright, to protect what is around. Okay, what is around it. Okay, so it might be a neuron. Okay, it will be it can be a neuron, so it protects the cells of that particular neuron. All right, next one is the Schwann cells. The Schwann cells are used to insulate. All right, just like your oligodendrocytes, it keeps the neuron insulated for proper nerve impulse transmission. Okay, so these are the two glial cells that are found in peripheral nervous system and its function. Okay, so let's take a closer look on what they look like. If you're going to illustrate it, okay, if you're going to illustrate the nervous tissue, it will look like this. Okay, so you will appreciate how these glial cells help the neuron, all right, supports and protect the neuron, okay, to maintain its function. So we have here the astrocytes, we have here the oligodendrocytes, we have here the ependymal, then the microglia. So each and every glial cells are very crucial part of your nervous tissue. Okay, so the astrocytes on this picture are the red. Okay, so these are taken using electron micrograph. Okay, so the red part are the red color that you see there are the astrocytes. The green are the neurons, and the blue are the DNA found on both astrocytes and the neurons. Okay, so these are the microscopic view of the astrocytes. We have here the microglia, the blue ones. All right, so the blue ones that you see there. So it protects the nervous system from foreign objects, viruses, and bacteria alike. Okay. Next one is the ependymal cells. Okay, as I've said earlier, that the ependymal cells are designed to line with the delicate tissues of your nervous tissue. Okay, so it lines, okay, and secretes a fluid to further protect these delicate tissues. Okay. Next one is oligodendrocytes. So the oligodendrocytes, again, they insulate. So as you can see here, the green oligodendrocytes that you have right here helps the neuron to keep insulated as much as possible. Okay. So we have here the satellite cells that protects the sensory neurons over here. All right, so these are the sensory neurons. Okay. Next is the Schwann cells. Okay, so the Schwann cells are this part. All right, so this part. And part of the axon is this one. So this is the axon. Okay, so as you can see, the Schwann cells are made up of fatty substances. These are made up of fatty substances that keeps the axon insulated. Okay, so that keeps the axon insulated. So that is the function of your Schwann cells. So these are the glial cells that constitutes your nervous tissues. Okay, together with the neuron, they help each other. They help each other in order to maintain the function and the well-being of the nervous system. Okay, so now, whether it is whatever kind of neuron it is, bipolar, unipolar, multipolar, sensory, interneuron, or motor neuron, okay, whatever type of neuron it is, it still follows the same pattern. sensory input, integration, and motor output, just like what we discussed in our previous video lesson. So the sensory input is being done by the sensory neuron. The integration is being done by the interneuron found in the central nervous system. And finally, we have the motor neuron, which is being done by the motor output, which is being done by the motor neuron. Okay? So it still follows the same process. So, same pattern. Okay? So if the nervous system is made up of neurons, it follows this certain pattern. Okay? And the role of the nervous system, the role of the neurons is still sensitivity. Okay? So as we open this video lesson a while ago, we said that organ systems are a group of organs that has the same function. Okay? These are group of organs that are found to have the same function to each other. So, if neurons are found in this organ system called the nervous system, then definitely these neurons are designed for one very characteristic of life. That is sensitivity. The ability to detect the change in the environment, or also known as stimuli, and create an appropriate action based on that stimuli. That is sensitivity. The neurons are capable of doing that. These neurons are capable of doing that in order to achieve this particular characteristics of life. Okay? So, sensitivity. Okay. Now, to further, let me see if you understand what are the things that I have discussed here in our video lesson. Okay, so let's go to our concept check. Okay, so you can pause the video, and while the video is paused, you can select the answer. Okay, you can read and select the answer based on the question that you have right here. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start with number 1. Now, what is the basic working unit of the nervous system designed to transmit information? Alright, so the choices is nerve cells, Schwann cells, brain cells, or satellite cells. Okay, you select your answer. Okay, so the answer is, alright, so the answer is nerve cells. Alright, so did you get it right? Okay, so next. Okay, next is what type of neuron? So I have a typographical error there. So what type of neuron is designed to transmit impulses to the effectors? Okay, what type of neuron is that? So the choices are sensory neuron, interneuron, bipolar neuron, and motor neuron. So select your answer. Okay, so the answer is motor neuron. Alright, so remember that motor neuron is always attached to the effectors, and it transmits whatever impulses that motor neuron contains to the effectors. Alright, the third question, which of the following is said to be the parts of a neuron? Okay, so these are the choices: brain, spinal cord, backbone, cell body, axon, dendrites, interneuron, bipolar neuron, motor neuron, or axon, microglia, or neuroglia. Okay, so select your answer. Okay, so the answer to this question is obviously the cell body, axon, and dendrites. These are the parts of neuron. Okay, next one. Number 4, what neuron is usually found in sense organ that is designed to respond to stimuli? Okay, so what neuron is usually found in the sense organ designed to respond to stimuli? Okay, so we have here the sensory neuron, interneuron, bipolar neuron, or motor neuron. Okay, so the answer is sensory neuron. Okay, so remember that sensory neuron are types of neuron that are attached to the sense organs, okay, in our body. And for the last question, what are the structures found in the nervous tissue that is for support and protection of neurons? Okay, these are the choices. Okay, spinal cord, Schwann cells, neuroglial cells, or sensory neuron. Okay, select your answer. All right, so the answer is neuroglial cells. All right, so did you get 5 out of 5 from this concept check that we have right here? So if so, it means that you did listen attentively to the video lesson that we have right here. All right, so the video lesson topic that we have right here. So okay. Now, if you didn't get 5 out of 5, so you might want to check again the concepts. Okay, so you might want to review again the concepts here in this video lesson for you to be able to understand. Okay, to be able for you to understand thoroughly all the concepts that we have here in this video lesson. With that, all right. So if you value a lot this, if you learned a lot from this video lesson that we have right here, so just hit the like button and try to write some comments. If you have comments and if you have suggestion on what are the things that you might want to ask about the topic that we have here in this video lesson, okay, don't hesitate to write something in the comment section below. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Okay, so it will help me a lot in okay, making a lot of science related video lesson in the future. So special shout out to my students, all right? So my grade 10 students. So okay, enjoy watching this one. Okay, enjoy watching this one. So that ends up my video lesson. Okay, so let's see each other next time. Peace out.
Bakaみたい子供なのね